My name is Dante Marioni. I live in Seattle, Washington. I am a glass artist. I blow glass. My dad is Paul Marioni, one of the sort of pioneering studio glass artists. So I grew up around it. We moved up here when I was 15, and I started to blow glass right away. I was in the right place at the right time, is the best way to put it. You know, in the early 1980s, people were just starting to really eke out a living as glass artists per se, and that's when I was doing what I would consider to be pretty intensive training. I worked at a production glassblowing studio here in town in Seattle, and I stayed after work and came in on the weekends to make my own work. I was so keen, I would just blow glass all the time. I didn't go to college. After high school, I started blowing glass straight away. I elected not to go off to art school because I wanted to be a glass blower. I didn't want to be a glass artist necessarily. I just wanted to blow glass all the time and get as good at it as I could. And I approached it in the sense that you would rock climbing or even playing golf or something, in that it's a singular sort of pursuit in the interest of improving your game. There's not many art forms that are done in a team the way that glassblowing is, and so you have this sort of community. We all kind of feed off each other and improve as we go. Benjamin Moore, Richard Marquis, and Lino Talipietro are three of my favorites, people that have inspired me and mentored me since I was a teenager. Lino Talipietro was invited by Benjamin Moore, who was artistic director of the Pilchuck Glass School in 1979, to come and be a visiting artist. That invitation led to Lino's first airplane ride and first trip to anywhere. He really came to America and started to teach a bunch of glassblowing hippies how to do it right, because prior to that, everybody was trying to figure it out as they went along. And on Murano in Venice, where Lino's from, they've been doing it for 1,000 years. He is the greatest glassblower alive, and he has tirelessly, selflessly taught 2 generations now of wannabe glass artists exactly how to do it. He's the man. He's like, he's Elvis. It's a combination of being able to do it well, technically, creating the beauty, and doing so with some originality. So it's a combination of those 3 things that keep me coming over here to my studio every day. I've been making objects that I group together in pairs or in trios for quite some time. It's really about a composition of forms. I was intrigued by the acorn when I was a little kid. I just thought it was this amazing little object that fell out of the tree. You know, essentially it's just a nut with a beret on it. I found it to be a beautiful object from a sculptural point of view. They're called a vessel display, which I believe is the title that my wife came up with. I thought that it was interesting as a composition. And when I put those pieces together now, it's not so much about individual vessel enjoyment as it is about the composition in this rectangular box on the wall. 1993, the Clintons put together a collection of American crafts, and I was one of the people that they asked that works with glass. So I went to the White House, had a great time, got to go on a tour of the Oval Office and meet Bill and Hillary. It was obviously a tremendous thrill. Then they produced a book of the collection, and they featured my piece on the cover of the book, and things started going really well. The mosaic vases that I have made really came about from the work of Carlo Scarpa, who was a Venetian architect. And in the 1940s, he designed a series of objects for the Venini factory that were comprised of individual little tiles that were all fused together and rolled up onto a blowpipe and then blown into a vessel. I was really enamored with or intrigued by that technique, so my friend Richard Marquis and I worked out how to do it. A retticello is a technique that's been used, it's a decorative sort of lacework technique that's been used on Murano it was developed, I'm guessing, 300 or 400 years ago, where you simply create two vessels that you fuse together to make an overlapping pattern that will then, if you do it right, it traps a little individual bubble in between each square. It's really tricky to do. So I've already made the pattern that this leaf is going to have on it. It takes a long time to make, so I never do that. Never do both parts of this in one day. There it is. Part of the appeal of it is that I like being able to create this sort of mathematical precision from this tank full of molten goo. It's all very physical, and I like that element of working with glass a lot. The tension of keeping this thing in one piece, not having it drop on the ground while you're making it. Yeah, I thrive on all that stuff. I love that tension, for lack of a better word, of the process, the intensity. Bloop. You start and you don't take a break until you're done with the thing, with whatever you're making. That's one of the elements of the process that I love the most. You can't stop and walk away from it and come back to it later. Once you start, you're in until it's done. And I've always loved that part of it. The people that I work with are my friends, whether it just be Janusz or half a dozen people when I make big pieces. And that element of being able to spend time in the service of making my work with all of my best friends is still to this day the single most rewarding aspect of this as a profession for me.